It's already the time for strategy session. And I really want to shake things up on how to introduce the show. So I'm going to need some inspiration. I wonder what Pi would tell me to do. Okay, Pi, what should I say to open a Masters of Scale live show about AI and creativity that gets everyone excited?
How about this? AI, creativity, and the future of innovation. We're here to explore how AI is transforming the creative landscape and paving the way for groundbreaking new ideas. It's time to think big, think bold, and think beyond the limits of what we thought was possible. So let's dive in and discover the thrilling potential of AI and creativity.
Now, say this to entrepreneurs.
Gotcha. How about entrepreneurs, get ready to rock. AI is here to fuel your creativity and unlock game-changing ideas.
That's right. We are unlocking some game-changing ideas. Thank you, Pi.
My pleasure. I hope it gets everyone pumped up and ready to learn more. Just don't forget to give me a shout out in the show notes.
Woof. Now, time to get ready for the show. As an entrepreneur, what do you want to know about AI?
It's time to wield this new technology to create the workplace and the work life that you want.
Please welcome Reid Hoffman.
Part of the way that I've been describing artificial intelligence is a steam engine of the mind.
The fear was around copy or plagiarism.
When I think about all of the possibilities with AI, honestly, I get a little overwhelmed.
I think of AI as really like an additional assistant.
At Bottle, we integrate AI with our marketing and customer support.
What do you think would be the best way forward with this?
This is Masters of Scale.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Masters of Scale live strategy session in alliance with Capital One Business. AI is here to fuel your creativity and unlock changing ideas. It's time to think big, think bold, and think beyond the limits of what we thought was possible. So we couldn't be more excited about tonight's show. I'm Jodine Dorsey, Vice President of Live here at Wait What, the company that brings Masters of Scale to life. Strategy Session is where the Masters of Scale community gathers to meet, share ideas, and co-elevate. If you've attended a strategy session before, welcome back. There are some of you that found us through Capital One Business. Capital One Business is our premier brand partner and thought partner in serving our community of entrepreneurs. And now, let me tell you what to expect tonight. While Strategy Session normally features our wonderful host, Reid Hoffman, he is unable to join us live this evening due to some unforeseen and unavoidable circumstances. Reid always cherishes the opportunity to interact with our Masters of Scale community, so he made sure to pre-record some segments which will play for you throughout the show. Don't fear, our host chair will not be left empty. No sirree. We thought to ourselves, who could possibly fill Reid's shoes? Who connects to our audience? Who has that expertise to guide business leader through the maze of AI strategy? Of course, that person has to be Maëlle Gave. That's right, the CEO of Techstars. Maëlle will join me in a few minutes to share her entrepreneurial wisdom, and I am so excited. Now, this live session is designed to help you focus on strategy for your own business. Over the course of our show, we'll share 4 entrepreneurs asking questions of our Masters of Scale host, Reid Hoffman. We also have a very special guest joining Maëlle later in the show. He may or may not be a recent guest on the Masters of Scale podcast. Look, I've said too much, said way too much. So more on that exciting edition in just a few minutes. We're also giving away a free gift to all of our viewers who stay tuned till the end of the show. More to come on that as well. While the show is going on, we want you to get involved. Have an insight to share or a question for the group? Please drop it in the chat. I don't ever know how this works, but it's over here, the chat. Please drop it in there. So before we get started, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'd love to read your responses in the chat. While experimenting with AI, personally or even professionally, what's an exciting discovery that you've made? Whatever it is, throw it in the chat. We'd love to learn an exciting discovery that you've made using or experimenting with AI. And this could be for both personal use or business use. As you're sending those in the chat, I want to start welcoming an exciting guest to the virtual stage. Please welcome Sonia DeGraw. Sonia is Capital One's Vice President of Software Engineering. While she was previously at PayPal, Sonia explored new ways to re-architect technology, streamline platforms, and deploy AI and machine learning tactics at scale. We're so lucky to have her join us today. Hey, Sonia.
Hi, Joreen. So great to be here.
It's so good to see you. Sonia, each strategy session begins with a central theme to help us focus the overall discussion. Last month, we tackled AI's impact on the future of work. Shameless plug, you can all watch it on the Masters of Scale YouTube channel. Sonia, share with us tonight's theme, please.
Of course. The theme is AI, your creative edge. You don't need to be artistic to benefit from AI's creative amplification. Creativity is core to any successful leader looking to distance their business from the competition. AI can truly reshape your creative leadership, from brainstorming to offering new insights or scaling productivity, so you as the leader can find time to think big. Go big or go home, as they say. While AI can be accessible and intuitive, how we implement this technology to best fuel our creativity requires strategy, expertise, and thinking through.
Absolutely. Thank you. With that, I think it's a good time to bring out tonight's special guest host. She's the CEO of Techstars, the most active pre-seed investment company on the planet, with we have 3,800 written on my script, but I hear it's about 4,000 portfolio companies. She and her global team mentor countless tech founders who seek to use AI in unique and creative ways. She's the author of the widely acclaimed book, Trampled by Unicorns, Big Tech's Empathy Problem and How to Fix It. Since her appearance in June's strategy session, many of you asked for her to make her return. So please welcome Maëlle Gavet. Maëlle, how are you?
Hi, Jordan. Hi, Sonia. I am so excited to be back at strategy session.
It's so good to see you, and it's so good for you to be here. You know, June strategy session, you ended our summer series with a hit, and so many people asked for you to come back. I'm so glad they did. Now, I'd love to throw to Sonia for our very first question of the night.
Hi, Maëlle.
Hi,
so
Sonia.
lovely to meet you and share the screen with you. Very inspiring to see you as a women leader in tech and innovation, blazing new frontiers. Welcome again. As we dive into this session on creativity, I think it would be really helpful for all our listeners to first hear it from you on your insights on how you might define creativity and what does that mean? What does creativity mean to you in the realm of AI?
I've been thinking a lot about that as I was invited to this session about creativity and AI, and I think a lot of people associate creativity with Mozart or Shakespeare, and then obviously you look at the business context and you're like, there's not that many Mozarts or Shakespeare in the business world, maybe a few, but in the business context, for many of the startup we invest in, creativity in AI means exploration and being inventive and seeing what's possible. So like testing, learning, iterating, like the famous rinse and repeat. And that doesn't always mean like exploring the latest, the most cutting edge AI, because that can be a little scary. often what it means is focusing on the proven tools that are already out there and how you can leverage them for your business. So you have a food delivery startup and they're seeking to reduce food waste, for example, and they might test AI through using predictive analytics to decide what inventory they need when to meet fluctuations in demand. So for me, it's like creativity means looking at the component in your business that take the greatest effort and then trying to understand them step by step and seeing if there's some part of that you can automate. And I think this is where we're going to see the most interesting innovation, the most interesting creativity. No one could conceive of a social network before the internet arrived, and that changed everything. And so I think for me, AI is about to bring another explosion of creativities in a way that we can't really know what it's going to look like. And that's what I'm the most excited about. We're going to see new thing in drug discovery and gaming and e-commerce and how to record music and making movies. And so I'm really excited about how AI is going to unlock creativity for all of us.
I love those insights, Mael, and especially what you said about experimenting and failing and restarting again. While this technology is still nascent, the potential for AI is exponential. While some people may find that ambiguity creatively inspiring, others might find it stifling, as many business leaders have never interacted with this kind of emerging technology before. How would you encourage people to get creatively inspired rather than feel daunted?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I think about what people get a little scared about AI, I think it's really because of two things. The first one is they find the technology itself quite intimidating, especially if they're not technical people, they're not engineers. And I think the second is there's this fear that AI is coming for your job. And I think on the first point, the way to not fear something when you're not an expert is just, it goes back to the experimentation I was talking about before. It's about exploring and learning. I'm going to share with you a personal story. I was 19 when the email made it into my home. And I had never seen the internet before. I had never seen an email. And I was like, oh God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to use it. 19, that tells you how old I am. And then what I did is just, I went there and I tried it. And after a couple of weeks, I was like, my God, this is awesome. This is going to change my life. And I think for me, this is what everybody should try to do with AI. There's a ton of free AI tools out there, not just ChatGPT or Pi, like just try them, try something new. I think when it comes to the second part, like it's going to come for a job. I don't think we can be naive. There are absolutely some jobs that are going to be displaced by AI, but for the vast majority, I believe it will empower us to redefine our role and do our jobs more effectively and more productively. And there's also going to be a lot of jobs that, frankly, we have little idea about what they're going to be. And again, that's to me what's really exciting. I would just quote one last thing, like Harvard Business School recently partnered with BCG. I used to be at BCG a long time ago. And they looked at AI tools associated with consultant, and it showed that it increased consultant productivity and accuracy on a lot of tasks, and really increased the quality. And so if AI can help consultants and not replace them, which was my assumption at the beginning, I'm sure it can help a lot of us around the world to do our job better. So that's it. So now you've asked me questions, so I'm going to ask you back a question. We obviously at Techstars, we mainly focus on the small and agile startup, and it's easier to experiment creatively with AI and take risk when you're a small startup. I'm wondering at Capital One, it's a big, I assume, complex organization. So how do you make room to stay creative?
Yeah, indeed, it's such a great question, Mel, and I loved your insights on how you looked at AI and look at it on how it can augment rather than replace. At Capital One, we truly believe that machine learning and AI will help unlock so many different solutions and potential for financial services to get democratized and to become available to all our consumers. At Capital One, customers are at front and center of how we are using machine learning and AI, doing the experiments, and figuring out what creatively we can offer as personalized customer experiences to our customers, where they have placed their trust on Capital One. So, for example, we are experimenting and looking at how machine learning and AI can offer more real-time intelligent insights, how AI can help offer them financial advice, how we can prevent risky transactions from happening on their account, how we can prevent fraudulent transactions. That's just the tip of the iceberg on how we are looking at machine learning and AI. So, for a builder and a technologist like me and the people on my team, AI is offering potential and, quite honestly, revolutionizing how we look at the potential that it has on the solutions that we are developing for our customers. For us, the customers could be inside the business or actual customers of Cap One. And taking that approach, what that entails is figure out a problem that a customer is facing, bring in more empathy, bring in more humanity into their banking experience. And so that's one of the areas that we truly believe is to remove that bias. So if there's a household and they're struggling to find credit, right, to get more credit into helping them become and have a better life. So through AI and the algorithms that we have, we are working to remove that bias and actually help them get a pre-approved for credit, which they might have been declined by other banks. So those are some of the examples in which we are taking a more humanized way and bringing humanity back into our banking experience. And like I said, we are very, very excited on the potential that AI has in front of us to offer those personalized, real-time, intelligent customer experiences.
Thank you, Sonia, for your wonderful business insights and illuminations on staying creative within boundaries. I know there's a lot of people that's watching that can relate. Well, we'll see you soon. Mael, we'll see you in a little bit. We'll see you in a little bit towards a little bit later at the show. Thank you both. All right. As I mentioned at the top of the show, Reed really wanted to be part of this session. So he went ahead and met with our guest entrepreneurs to answer their questions and record his strategy for all of you at home. Our first question comes to us from Emily Yu. Emily is the founder and CEO of AI Priori, an AI-powered platform driven by community-centered data to help the public sector review their content at scale. Let's see what Emily had to ask Reed.
Hello, Reed. Thank you for taking my question. It's so nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Thank you. So with my startup, AI Priori, we work with leaders from across the social sector, looking to integrate AI for greater impact. And for many, it has to do with preparing for the inevitable shifts that are coming in culture, practices, and policies that are happening around us. I'm wondering if you have any advice for social sector leaders and how they can really think about creating a change management strategy that not only helps them, assimilate with this transformation with their change management strategy, but really unleashes creativity for greater impact.
Great question. And, the kind of things that AI Priori is doing to, help analyze the documents and pull out and that kind of thing, I think is, very good help and a very natural use of AI. So because, for example, in amplification intelligence, it's a research assistant. It, can summarize. It can generate, slogans or documents. So, and I think the part of the work that you're doing that's really important is to essentially say not just the kind of the tech folks or the lawyers or other ones, but the social impact. Let's get this benefit for society as well. And I think that's a very important mission. Some things that undoubtedly you've already thought of that I'm going to just add in for everyone here. There's obviously the use of generative AI to generate a whole bunch of materials from the social impact sector, reports, blog posts, analyses, response to local news, and how that plays into your mission and all that kind of stuff, because AI can help amplify that just as it amplifies anything with language. Another one that may not surprise people now that they've seen the OpenAI Dev Day is a bot that helps answer questions. So if someone says, "Hey, I've got an interest in this impact, the social impact area," you could have something that's there that can talk and can say, "Here's what things like, well, what's going on in my community, or what could I do to help, or is this as important as this other social cause that I care about, or what's the relationship to it?" And that can also, of course, be quite helpful in this. And so, and then, of course, in addition to your internal, research analysis, there's also research analysis from the internet, what kinds of things to find, that kind of thing, and this kind of what is in the AI world known as RAG, which is kind of taking additional content in to help shape a response, whether it's from the internet or other things. Undoubtedly, you probably do some of this with your AI priori as well, is also stuff that could be really helpful. And the most fundamental piece of advice for the social impact leaders is to start experimenting. This is going to generate a lot of capabilities, and it's doing so already, and it will accelerate every 3 to 6 months. And so getting into it and doing it is really important. So, thanks for your question.
That was really helpful. Thank you. I just want to comment because it really hits the nail on the head on 3 of the core obstacles right now for the social sector with AI, which is really time, capacity, and resources, and the limitations that those present. So when it comes to the creativity side of it, I love the examples you brought forth, and I think those are very promising. My just one curiosity and follow-up for you, do you think there's a role for community members in terms of the equity piece in the data that's being collected and how AI is being democratized? Is there a way that community members can really embrace AI to become more creative in how they're building power and driving solutions for their communities?
Well, I think it's definitely use of the tools. And there's also, with refining the tools to be specific to their purposes is also possible. I think there's basically 2 patterns of kind of AI models. There's the super large models, which are trained on trillions of words. And so there's no community that generates enough words for that. It's trained across the whole thing. And then there's smaller models that are essentially fine-tuned. And sometimes they're fine-tuned off the large models and smaller sets of data. There's 2 ways that communities could fine-tune things, or at least there's more than 2 ways. But in general fine-tuning, one is to say, okay, we're going to take a kind of a largest open source model, and we're going to retrain it some to our particular interests and purposes, so it has a higher rate, the right language style of response, the right way of integrating, making people feel natural and at home with it. Another one is to take a large model and train a new model, but off specific data from the community, and then getting very high precision to that. Now, there's even cheaper ways, which is to do meta prompting. So, for example, if you take GPT-4 today and you put in what is known as a meta prompt, and you say, don't give the answer, just help the person towards the answer, you instantly create a tutor, right? As just an example. So it says, the person says, so, what were the causes of the American Revolution? And it says, well, what do you think the causes might be? As opposed to, well, here's what historians argue is the top 5, and that creates a tutor. Well, that kind of meta prompting can direct this, direct the agent to be responsive in the way that you think is the right domain for this agent to be, engaged, appropriate, right language, etc., for a particular community too.
That's fantastic. Thank you. That was very helpful and inspiring.
That was great. That was great. And I'm sure Maya's going to have a lot more to say about that when we get back to her. All right. Our next question is from Heather Lover. Heather is a founder and CEO of Simo.ai, a startup dedicated to helping early stage founders brand, market, and pitch their businesses. Simo offers users an automated CMO and applies your streamlined storytelling onto a compelling pitch deck. Simo.ai is also a Techstars portfolio company. What did Heather and Reed strategize about? Let's find out.
Hey, Reed, I'm really excited to be here. As a disabled founder, I see firsthand how often online accessibility is seen as an afterthought. Our goal at Simo.ai is to bake accessibility into the foundation of every brand, pitch deck, and marketing asset our software creates. We want accessibility to not only be industry standard because it's the right thing to do, but also because it opens up markets by over 20%. I believe that my disability has made me more empathetic, which in turn makes me a better designer and storyteller because I'm able to put myself in other people's shoes. I think that's what's required to build truly accessible creative tools. So my question for you is, how can business leaders today channel a similar sense of empathy to creatively use AI and spark a new chapter in online accessibility?
Well, that's an amazing path and story that you come on. So thank you for sharing it. And empathy, as you identify, is extremely important. It's one of the actually core ideas behind, inflection and Pi. The first startup I've done since LinkedIn, which is this personal intelligence reflection, because EQ is as important as IQ in kind of being a good, kind of companion, tool, help, aid to human beings. We respond, we trust, we engage when empathy is there, when EQ is there, exactly as you're doing. And, part of my hope in, part of what AI can naturally do in terms of really broadening and accessibility is AI is naturally turning everything into a language interface. And so anything that you can do with language now can direct, a computational device. And it's really good at translation. So if you say, well, what if I'm mute? It's like, well, but other kinds of languages it can also translate into. It still needs a language to go, but as long as it can get from any language you have, and by the way, of course, much broader communities and everything else, it can go into any kind of format for directing computers and devices and applications and all the rest. And I think there's going to be a whole new world of accessibility. And I think your insight into having empathy be core to the high functioning of that is exactly right. And so when I hear your question, I was like, yeah, that's exactly why we were thinking about Pi the way we are too. And of course, Pi is a chatbot agent, and yours is actually, how do we change the interfaces of all these things so that we make the affordances, the ability to kind of make it natural, easy, welcome, my kind of place, my kind of thing, done with me in mind, at a much broader range. And I think that, and by the way, it won't just increase the market, as you say, it'll also increase the value for everybody. So I think it's a great question.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you said about the importance of EQ and IQ. That's really at the heart and soul of what we're doing at Simo. And I'm really excited about how AI and machine learning can make certain things about branding more accessible to people and marketing and pitching more accessible to people. For instance, one challenge that we're dealing with right now is how to make brand generation accessible to the completely blind. And it really takes a lot of empathy to put yourself in their shoes, especially someone who's never had sight. How do you explain a color scheme? How do you explain what a font looks like? Because right now, founders who are completely blind, they have to go through, it quadruples the amount of time to develop any kind of marketing because they have to have it reviewed by someone sighted. So at Simo, we're trying really hard to answer that question with technology to make it easier and faster for them so that they have an equal shot at telling their story and unlocking their own startup success.
That's really great. And I suspect you're already doing this, but I'd be very curious to see if you go to the leading AI models and you say, with different prompts, explain color palette, explain to a blind person, etc., and do it with many different prompts and see if you get some interesting different results. Try it also, by the way, when you're doing this to do, because sometimes shaking it up and just repriming it, like how would Picasso explain color palettes to a blind person? Right? Like try that, because you might discover something. Oh, that's really good. We should use that one too. And again, 80% of them might be useless, but if 20% of them are useful, that will be really helpful. And I think that's part of where we can use AI to help us become more human.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Thank you so much, Reed.
Thanks.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Emily, for those questions. And I see you're in the chat. So if anyone's interested in Heather and Emily's startup, please reach out to them in the chat, get to know them. They are great members of the Masters of Scale community. So thank you, Emily and Heather, for being here with us tonight. All right, everyone, we've got a couple more entrepreneurs to introduce you to, but first, we're going to play a quick game. All of us at Masters of Scale love a good game show. And since this session is all about AI, it's time to bring back our AI-themed game show, ChatGPT versus Reed. For this game show, all of you are the contestants. If you haven't played before, we've got you. Here's how to play. I'm going to present a question sent to us by a member of the Masters of Scale community. Before today's show, we posed that question to both the real Reid Hoffman and separately ChatGPT, pretending to be Reed. We'll show you both the real Reed answer and the ChatGPT answer. It is your job to guess which response was from the real Reid Hoffman and explain why you think that. Be sure to share your guesses and your reasons, of course, in the chat. Okay, we're going to have 2 rounds of questions and answer. Ready? Let's kick off the first round. Our first question was sent to us from Mickey Powell. How can I assess and prioritize which of my daily leadership tasks are best augmented by AI? Option A, identify repetitive, time-consuming, and data-intensive tasks. You can also consider risk management and predictive analytics. Or option B, begin with all tasks that focus on communication. LLMs will amplify any leader's ability to communicate. This focus will go on to organically ignite other cases. Tougher than you thought, huh? Remember you are choosing which option is the real Reid Hoffman and why. Is it option A or is it option B? While you respond in the chat, we're going to have some thinking music coming from our composer, Hayes. If you joined us last month, you'll remember Hayes from the Holiday Brothers' iconic disco interludes. Take it away, Hayes. Why is Hayes in an alligator costume? Thank you, Hayes. But why are you in an alligator costume? All right, y'all. I hope you finished your thought and submitted your answer in the chat, because I am ready to reveal the real Reed's response. The real Reed response was option B. Congratulations to all of you who chose B. You won bragging rights for this round. But don't get too excited, because we are now ready for round 2. The stakes are higher in round 2 because we're actually looking for a winner this time. So make sure the reason for your guess is a creative one. It's got to be good. Okay? So here's the question an entrepreneur asked. As we hire, what 3 characteristics should we look out for in candidates that best indicate their potential for a positive partnership with AI? Option A, dynamic learner with a drive to experiment, creative inventiveness, an eye for spotting patterns and trends. Or option B, agile, collaborative, committed, ethical mindset. Well, in his alligator uniform, in his alligator outfit, we're going to bring back Hayes for some thinking music as we try to guess which answer is the real Reed. And please don't forget to tell us why. All right, Hayes, take it away. Oh, I love that. Thanks, Hayes. All right. I hope you've all shared your responses in the chat because here comes the correct answer. I'm looking at the chat right now. I see you guys are still in there putting some answers in. So the answer that came from the real Reed is response A. For those of you who put a reason behind your answer, we are going to choose and announce a winner at the end of the show. All right. Let's tackle some more strategy session questions from our entrepreneurs. And thank you so much for playing that game. For our next question, we go to Melinda Haughey. Melinda is the co-founder and CTO of Proxy, a software company enabling users to create and share their own personalized and interactive maps. Let's see what happened when Melinda and Reed sat down together.
Hi, Reed. It's an honor to be here with you today.
An honor is mine, too.
Over 70,000 user-generated and crowdsourced maps have been created on Proxy's AI-enabled mapping tool. These maps cover a wide range of interests, from highlighting queer-owned businesses to historical guides to London, even showcasing which themed establishments and where they are. We've accumulated a substantial data set of unique location-specific information. Think of it like a Reddit of places. And next, we're exploring how to best share these places and this data set with consumers. And we're looking ahead to building on emerging mediums beyond something like another iPhone app. Reed, we're eager to understand what creative ways you think consumers will use to engage with local information in the coming years, especially with AI advances, and how that might impact the platforms and hardware that consumers turn to mediate information discovery.
Well, great question. I always find myself with a little trepidation in answering prediction questions because the most certain way to look a little foolish in 3 to 5 years is to make a prediction about the future. Because it's the thing I usually say about the future is it's sooner and stranger than you think, which is it gets here, but it's also unusual, right? In terms of some unpredicted characteristics. I think there's a couple different ways that local information. One is obviously, in the current, kind of one-to-many publishing paradigm, even in local, you tend to say, well, here is the review for the restaurant, or here is the review for which themed establishments, or here is, something. And yet, now with AI, it can be much more tied, right? So like you can both generate a lot more, but you also go, oh, this is Reed asking for historical guides to London, and Reed has an interest in science fiction, and there's this great science fiction museum that was started by H.G. Wells, right? And then all of a sudden you can kind of highlight that. So and then you can write something specific. What kind of things do you find to be normal? Don't even ask a London question. Like, what do you find to be normally fun when you're traveling? Or what have been some of your best travel experiences? And then they say, well, when I was riding a horse, through the hills of Italy. You go, well, there is actually interesting horse stuff outside London, if that would be interesting to you, right? Et cetera, et cetera. And there may be some history to it, or, blah. And so also through that. And I think we will see all of this happening at speed. And I think, part of the thing that will, I think, be maybe most interesting in the interactions is how we figure out how to prompt human beings, right? Because human beings are not necessarily good at the blank page problem. It's one of the reasons why most people still don't know how to use search as well as search can be used, right? Because they've learned some things, they've learned to look up restaurants and learn other things, but like, for example, I'm surprised at how many people don't know when they're going, oh, I'm looking for how to learn a skill, like how to cook this dish. They don't go to YouTube and go, how to cook this dish on YouTube. And then goes, oh, look, there's a video showing me some things about doing it. It's a great way to. So many people don't know how to use these tools. So I think one of the other parts that will be a central part of the AI revolution will be essentially learning to prompt that in a way to help you get to the thing that gives you the most delight, like what the prompt is to get you there for it. And so, I think that's among the things I would say as an answer. It's trends, it's where things are going, but it's not. There's obviously a lot we're going to discover together.
Yeah, I think the prompting point is particularly interesting to us because we have our tool where people can go and add points to their map, but we also have this ability for people to get places that are personalized based on other maps that they've created, but also based on prompts that people aren't used to using when searching for places. So today you search for $1 sign, $2 sign, $3 sign, a specific cuisine, but really what I want is a place to impress my in-laws that's within 3 miles of where I live. And so we have some ways for people to put in those prompts, but just like you mentioned, we struggle a little bit with that behavior change and that training that is required of us.
Yep, I think that's exactly right. And that's part of the kind of the human amplification because, how do we learn things? We learn them by doing. And part of it is to get prompted into doing. Like very often, all of us human beings are like, oh, I'm just not sure I can do that. I don't even know what to do. And so I just never do. And like training wheels on a bicycle, like just beginning to do that and getting into it, is I think one of the really central things. And I think one of the themes from AI that you put your finger on very intelligently here is that everything is going to get a lot more local, right? Like it's going to get local to your interests, it's going to local to you. And I think that's one of the things that we will be discovering as part of the joys of AI.
Great. Well, I can't be.
Melinda, that was such a good question, and it's so good to see you in the chat right now. I'm so happy that you've joined in. All right. Our last entrepreneur of this segment, we'll hear from Dr. Fahamu Peku. Dr. Peku is an artist and scholar. His work has appeared in museums around the world, including the Smithsonian Museum of African American Art and Culture and Société Générale, which is in Paris. He is also the founding director of the African Diaspora Art Museum of.
AI is contagious. I'm a visual artist, and I understand how to use paint and charcoal and sculpture, photography to elicit emotional and even physical responses in a viewer. But given that AI is largely non-material, I'd like to learn about ways I can deploy AI as a medium rather than simply as a tool. As a builder of AI, do you think this technology could soon be used creatively to expand the human experience of art?
Great question. And I think the answer is categorically yes. I'd be interested, this is an area of expertise, so I'd be interested in an exploration, which is if you already go to things like DALL-E 3 and you say, give me some responses or even upload like a picture of something you've done, paint, charcoal, sculpture, photography, and give me some responses, or how would this blend with, a silver daguerreotype or other kinds of things, kind of much more tactile. I actually think it might even have something in a loop where you are the person creating the materiality, but it is an assistant to you it's something that you're deploying. To give you a music counterexample or parallel example, not counterexample, when I was talking to some musicians, I said, look, there's going to be AI tools that can say, we've seen the John Lennon thing from Paul McCartney recently, they could say, I'm, will.i.am, give me a original will.i.am song. And it will do that. And they go, well, shit, do I get replaced? Like, no, because when you're prompting it, you go, ooh, that bit at second 5 to 10, that's really good. And that bit at 1 minute and 10 to 1 minute 35, that's really good. I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to use that. And I'm going to reiterate for it. That's the kind of tool that it might actually even help in your physical materiality, right? Like that kind of loop and use is something that, I suspect there's a there, where it is and how it is. You're more the expert than I am in order to make that happen. Now, I do think also that AI can broaden the experience of art from the experiencer side in a lot of ways too, because let's take a parallel for what's going on in kind of the business world, which is, I get a report and I don't have time to read the report and I feed the PDF into, an AI summarizer and say, give me a summary, right? Now, say I'm looking at a piece of art and I go, I don't fully know how to fully understand this. It says, well, okay, so here's some of the history of it. Here's the artist. Here is different things. Do you have a question? Can ask the question. This is the sense of kind of what we're trying to do in this experience, or these are the question. This is the right question to come to mind with this, or this is the history of it. This is the community it's embedded in. And so it can make the ability to explore a piece of art much richer because, again, just like having a personal assistant there, the personal assistant can bring stuff. And if you're worried that, because by the way, the personal assistant, if you just take GPT, it's going to do what it's going to do. You could do meta prompting or other kinds of things around it to help it shape where you would want the dialogue around the piece of art to be, to also be part of the artistic experience. And so that's also, I think, something to be done. And these are just off-the-cuff ideas. I think artists such as yourself and other people will figure out 20 things that are brighter than the things that I just said. But those are some kind of, initial gestures, kind of a flashlight beam of light.
Yeah, that's really amazing and really great to think about. In one of your earlier responses, you talked about AI expanding, language, right? Like complicating language. And I think, when we think about art as language, there's a really natural collaboration that happens between what the technology can do and making it conversant with the experience of art.
Yes, exactly. And getting more people into art because, again, it's that kind of like, how do I begin to experience it? How do I, am I just supposed to like it? Like it pleases my senses? Or is it supposed to teach me something? Or how do I engage? Like people obviously frequently say, engage in a dialogue with it. Well, most people don't know how to do that. Mm-hmm. So enabling those kind of training wheels and first steps to doing that, and language is how we, most often interface with each other. So language enables that, the first steps on that path.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So many interesting ideas I'll be taking away from Reed this evening. We're so grateful that he wanted to make the effort to answer all of tonight's questions. Thank you again to Melinda and, of course, Dr. Fahamu Peku for your excellent questions. Well, I think it's time that we shake things up. So I want to welcome back Maëlle Gave. Hi, Maëlle.
Hi, Jodine.
While I was watching Reed's conversation with Melinda, it made me think, if AI impacts consumer habits as much as we predict it will, how can any leader confidently create a longer-term business plan right now? If you devise a plan that takes 3 to 4 years to develop, surely you're planning for a landscape that might look exceedingly different.
Yeah, no, it's clearly top of mind for a lot of founders right now. And what I usually tell them is, look, being a founder, being a CEO requires for you anyway to think long term. And the world keeps shifting and the ground keeps moving under your feet. Like no one predicted COVID. No one predicted the crisis with SVB. And somehow you, founder, kind of figure out a way to make it work through this. And so I think like being a founder is almost being a black belt in managing black swans. And so to me, AI is just another one of those. As a founder and as a leader of your company, you should think about long term where you want to go, and then you adapt based on what's happening tactically on a weekly, daily, monthly, quarterly basis. As long as you have this North Star, it's going to be fine.
Okay. Well, at Techstars, you meet with entrepreneurs every day to talk about these kinds of issues. We know that you have so much to share when it comes to AI. So we want to make the space for you to do so. So I'm going to introduce our final guest of the show and leave you both to dive into more of a fireside chat. Well, there's no one better to share some wisdom on the marriage between creativity and AI than our special guest, Ulan Lee. Ulan is the co-creator of best-selling games Exploding Kittens and Throw Burrito. As lead designer of the original Xbox, Ulan pioneered the alternate reality gaming genre. As an entrepreneur, Ulan led one of the most successful Kickstarter campaigns of all time and even won an Emmy and Peabody Award. If you've listened to our recent Masters of Scale series, AI and You, you'll know that Ulan has integrated AI into his creative workflow with great success. So we're all so excited to have him join us and share even more of his AI journey. So please welcome Ulan Lee. Hi, Ulan. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good. Mael, Ulan, I'm going to leave you both so I could sit back, and I'm actually going to take some notes.
All right. Thanks, Georgine. So, Elon, I'm so excited because I come from a family which is obsessed with board games and card games, like obsessed. Like that's literally what we're going to be doing at Christmas, New Year with the entire family. And your game, Exploding Kitten, is right now on the desk of every one of my family members because they're trying to figure out how to play it. And we've just discovered that there's a French translation, so my mom is over the moon. So I'm very happy to be here today with you.
Oh, that's so delightful to hear. Thank you. I hope your mom enjoys it, and if not, let me know. I can we can set up a call. I can whisper into her ear and help her cheat a little bit.
Oh, no cheat. If someone cheated, it has to be me because I'm super competitive. Right. I want to win. Right. I don't play if I don't win.
Fair enough. I will whisper in your ear. Got it. Check.
Oh, thanks. All right, so I'm going to be nice with question, given that you're going to help me win with my family. That's awesome.
Let's do it. All right.
You and I, we've talked before the show about the fact that you use AI every day to amplify your creativity, and I thought that'd be interesting for you to share some of that with the people with us today.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe it would be helpful. Let me try kind of taking a step back and describing what I do for a living, what it means to create games. And then I hope that each step of that and how AI is integrated into that can be really easily translated to whatever your creative endeavor is. I think it's kind of a one-to-one translation, but bear with me and we'll find out. So I think game creation, from my perspective, is really just three phases. You have to create a fun game. You have to come up with a good theme for that game, and then you have to sell the game. And those three phases, I think, are really relevant to whatever your endeavor is. When I say I have to create a fun game, whatever it is that you're working on, you have to create the insert successful adjective here, right? You have to create an effective tech startup. You have to create a viral marketing campaign, like whatever it is, however you define success. As I talk through the game creation process, I'm going to be using the word fun, but you can easily translate that out to whatever is the success criteria for your project. So let's start there. I have to make fun games. For me, that process is very time consuming. And it used to take months or years. And with AI, I've actually been able to shorten that to sometimes just a few hours. And I think the process works like this. I think the process is: step one, define the problem. Like you need really good constraints. Sometimes AI can help you with that, but mostly you just don't want a completely blue sky environment. You want to figure out, how can I build a thing that satisfies a very particular problem, that solves a very particular problem. So define your boundaries, step one. Step two, fill your brain with all the things. Don't read some books, read all the books. Don't watch some shows, watch all the shows. Listen to all the podcasts. Like, you really, anytime you find yourself with the opportunity to have an experience, either like leaving the house and doing something, or consuming some form of media, or having a fascinating conversation, take that opportunity. That is business research 101. You just need as many things in your head as possible. And that's very much a lifelong endeavor. And the more you're able to fill your brain with those things and remember them and index them really effectively, the better a creative entrepreneur you will be. The third step is the one that takes so long, which is mixing and matching. If you were working on a movie pitch, you look at the constraints that you set, and you're trying to say, like, which two things do I want to mix together? It's Jaws versus Sophie's Choice. That's a terrible example, but just
I want to play that game.
Yeah, I want to play that game too, seriously. But when I'm creating a game, it's really that. It's, I really like Uno. Can we combine Uno with Connect 4? No. How about if we take Connect 4 and mix it with bike riding? I'm really into bike riding now, right? And you go through this process of mixing and matching, and usually rejecting as fast as you can. And this is really where AI, in my opinion, steps in. Because I will, instead of working on that mixing and matching criteria for weeks and months and sometimes years when I'm really stuck, I can sit down with AI for a few hours and just work on prompts and say, like, look, I'm going to supply the first thing, and you help me out with all the interesting things that I could potentially mix this with. And oftentimes it'll generate lists and lists and lists, and they're all garbage, which is fine because that's part of the process. But it's really nice to pick one of them and say, you know what, ignore the first thing I said. An item on your list was competitive rock climbing. Let's start there. Tell me about the things we can mix with competitive rock climbing to satisfy the criteria we talked about earlier and is baked into the prompt. And suddenly my ability to work with this intelligence with infinite patience and infinite ideas is so much better than what I can do on my own. It often won't yield the right idea, but I can usually shortcut weeks off the process because it helps me get through all the bad stuff faster, and it helps me find the little tiny sparks that might be interesting, and then I can grab those and dive right in. One of the most important things. Oh, please go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
I will talk for hours unless you interrupt me, and it's always better with the interruption. So please help me steer this.
So what I find really interesting in what you're saying is that the exact, by the way, I had no idea that this is how games were created. I just, I find them like, oh, that's awesome. So now I understand better how you made that happen. But what I find really interesting is that what you were describing could be applied almost one-to-one to any entrepreneur looking for a business idea, like not just gaming, but like generally, like overall. Have you tried to apply that process, including the AI support, into just launching another business that is not necessarily related to finding a game?
I never have, but I will bet it would work. Like years ago, before I got into video games or card games, I was working with some friends, and we were just working on essentially a storytelling company. And I remember I was sitting down with my mentor, a guy named Jordan Weissman, who is a legend in the video game world. And we sat down and we were talking about storytelling and creative storytelling and what it means to tell a story in the modern day. And we were sitting and we were eating, I remember, a sushi lunch, and his phone rang and he said, "What if that was the game calling me right now?" And my brain exploded. It was like, I you just mixed two incredible things together, right? Storytelling and the ability to call players. Instead of the players opting into this thing, what if the game opted into the players? And so we ran off. We took a year. We built it. It was generally known as the world's first alternate reality game. You can go do all the research on this thing. It was called The Beast. But that process, we stumbled into that. And that was after probably weeks of thinking, well, what if this and what if that and what if this? And Jordan, in his brilliance, mixed the two correct things together at exactly the right time. For those who don't have a Jordan, AI serves that purpose perfectly, because it will do that combinatorial mathematics at lightning speed. All you have to do is be really astute and really open-minded as you look at the results and find the two ingredients that are appropriate to mix together.
Do you think that AI help you keep the essence of the human experience in play? Because you talk a lot. I read some of your interviews and listened to some of the podcasts you did, including Masters of Scale. And you talk a lot about how you try to capture the human experience in all the games that you design. And immediately my mind jumps to, is AI ever going to be able to engineer the human experience the way you think about it and the way you've been integrating into your game?
So my fundamental premise behind all game design is that games should not be entertaining. Games should make the people you're playing with entertaining. And AI sucks at that. And that's great. That's great. That's going to keep me in business for a long time. When I said earlier, the criteria for me is make a fun game. My definition of fun is a game that shines the spotlight on the players, that makes the players entertaining, because I have found that those are the most fun games. When I think back to my childhood, which was a very game-heavy family, those are all my best experiences. It's when me and my siblings were laughing and throwing food and flipping the table over and cheating and collaborating and doing all that stuff. I don't even remember the games. I remember us. I remember those interactions. So when I say I need to make a fun game, it has to check off those boxes, those childhood memory boxes, the players being entertaining. And AI can supply these beautiful, infinitely long lists, but it will always be saying, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And it is up to me to say, nope, 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 yes, nope, a little of that. Let's move in this direction. And that human element of it is what changes it from a tool to a collaboration. And without those two parts, it would be an unfruitful collaboration.
Again, that's really interesting because it's back to the conversation I'm sure a lot of us have been having, which is AI coming for our job, or is it here to enhance our capabilities and help us be like superhuman? And what I'm hearing from you is you're in the second camp. Like you're thinking about AI as a way to make you better and just unleash your own creativity even further.
Yeah, I heard a great quote. I hate giving quotes unattributed, and I'm not going to be able to attribute this one, so someone's going to have to help me and look it up. But there was a writer in Hollywood who was asked if AI was going to take writers' jobs. And he said, AI is not going to take the jobs of any writers. AI is going to take the jobs of writers who don't know how to use AI. And it's exactly how I think about the game industry and its relationship to AI. It is an incredibly powerful tool. It shaves time off the process if you know how to use it correctly. And it is an incredible collaborator if you are open to guided collaboration.
I could not agree more. And I have heard the quote before. I have no idea where it's who is the author. So
terrible.
Please, someone in the chat, help us.
The other thing that's fun, just to mention it as a tool that, so I that is primarily where I use AI. There's this other element that I never really thought of before, but have recently started doing this. Once we have a cool game and I'm looking for the theme or I'm looking for the title, I work with AI to generate the rule set. We come up with these instructions, we test them on real human beings, and then we eventually come up with instructions, what I think of as perfect instructions. I'm so proud of all the instructions in our games because they go through so much testing, and you should be able to learn how to play these games in 5 minutes. Then, to figure out the theme, I take those instructions that I've spent weeks working with an AI to generate, and I feed them right back into the AI and say, become an expert at this game and tell me what it should be called to attract this target audience. And the results are never perfect. I've never gone with any of the ideas, but what it does come up with are really nice conversation starters for me to take to my human counterparts and have discussions that aren't starting at square 0. We get to start at square 3 or 4 instead.
Did you use that to find the Exploding Kitten title, which I thought is an amazing name?
Yeah, so the Exploding Kittens title is the brilliance of my co-founder, Matt Inman, who's the author and creator of The Oatmeal. And that story, I can tell in just 20 seconds because it's so fun. The game was originally called Bomb Squad because I had designed this game where it was just Russian roulette with a deck of cards. Here's a deck. There's some bad cards in it. Avoid the bad cards. We'll call it Bomb Squad. The bombs are the bad things. Really easy. All I was focusing on is game design. And I showed it to my friend Matt, and he looked at it and he said, this is the most fun game ever. 2 things. 1, you should let me be your partner on this thing. And 2, it's so obvious to be scared of bombs. Of course you're scared of bombs. Because that's so obvious, it's entirely boring. What if instead you were scared of cute, adorable, fuzzy little kittens, and we call the game Exploding Kittens? So more proof that AIs are never going to quite take the place of humans because people like Matt come along and they're so overwhelmingly funny and brilliant that they come up with the answer in a second.
I love that story.
So can I ask you a question? Can we go back and forth a little bit?
It's supposed to be a dialogue. At least that's what Megan told me. So I don't know.
I am so excited to ask this because you have such a unique perspective on this, and your exposure to startups and that, that elevator pitch and people coming to you and trying to explain why their idea is best, why their idea is going to be successful. And I'm sure that more and more you see AI playing a part in that, right? As they try to integrate AI into their pitches. What are the red flags? What do they say where you think immediately, oh, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, or this will absolutely never work because they do not understand. They're just throwing jargon at me, and therefore this is all irrelevant.
Oh, that's a good one. I try to think less in terms of red flag and more in terms of potential, because sometimes, you meet with an entrepreneur and you're like, this is an absolutely crazy idea. Like, this is never going to work. Like, they don't even seem to know fully what they are actually talking about. Like, they understand the problem, but the solution that they're bringing, not sure. There's probably some work to do. And by the way, part of the work we do at Techstars is to help them come with better solution and better business to make these solutions available. So that's kind of part of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But what I've over the years, the one thing that I have constantly thought about, whether it's AI or blockchain, it used to be the fashionable word of not that long ago, like 2 years ago. And then there were other before is tell me something that tell me something that AI is going to help you to do that was not possible to do before. Even if you don't fully understand the technology, tell me in one sentence, thanks to AI, we're going to do X. And if I immediately see that without AI, X would never have been possible, I'm like, oh yeah, great, makes sense. Like, let's try to work with you on how we can make that a real business. And so I don't really care about whether you're going to use the word AI in your pitch the same way I don't really care about whether you're going to use the word blockchain or Web3. What I care about is there a big, gigantic problem in front of us? And do you have a really different way of solving it versus everyone else? And if that means using AI, awesome. If it means not using AI because you have a better option, that's fantastic too.
That's such a good question to ask. I love that. It jumps right to the heart of it and really puts them in the hot seat of like, do you actually know what you're talking about? That is so nice. I want to dive a little deeper in that. Here's proof that I did my homework. So you wrote this wonderful article in Fast Company about antitrust regulation, and I'm gonna sort of pick and choose pieces of it to frame this question. As these large companies get like more and more power, more and more resources, they're just acquiring all these smaller companies and putting themselves at a strategic advantage over potential startups. Let's talk about AI in that regard. Are there versions of AI resources that those larger companies either have or could gain access to that the rest of us, the smaller people, will never have access to, and therefore it's not an even playing field? Like, is that a potential risk? Is that a reality? Is that science fiction? Like, where are we with AI as a tool for big companies versus startups?
So I've never heard someone saying the word wonderful after I read that article about antitrust regulation. So I'm all excited now.
Love it.
I mean, the way I think about it is, I think about it in terms of analogy. I think about Amazon. I come from e-commerce originally before joining Techstars, and Amazon probably built the best e-commerce supply chain in the entire world. And as a result of them building that incredible supply chain, they gain an unbeatable, in my opinion, competitive advantage. That makes it really, really hard for retailers and other e-commerce companies to compete, especially the ones who went head to head with the type of choice and the logistic infrastructure that Amazon had built. But at the same time, the exact same structure that made Amazon such a giant was it was open up to third parties, and that enabled a number of small players who would never have been able to do that sort of e-commerce at scale. It also pushed players outside of Amazon, so like UPS, for example, FedEx, to provide white label delivery services. And in return, these white label delivery services allowed more businesses, more e-commerce businesses to be alive and grow. And so I think about AI a little bit in the same way. There is going to be some businesses which are going to disappear. And frankly, if you're an entrepreneur and your dream is to compete with ChatGPT, you are probably not going to succeed because of the compute power and the data sets required to even remotely have a shot at competing. So the only businesses that might compete are most likely state-backed or big tech-backed. But all of this is also going to create a huge opportunity to leverage this infrastructure to build startups. And so there's going to be competition in the same way there were competition over delivery because of Amazon. So if you're asking, are you as a startup going to be able to compete head to head with big tech? Probably not head to head, but you're going to have opportunities anyway to launch businesses. And maybe at some point, these businesses will cannibalize big tech. And that, to me, that's what AI is so exciting, because it allows new businesses to come and solve problems that big tech is not capable of solving right now.
I love that. I love that. Okay, there's hope.
There is always hope. You and I are entrepreneurs, so we're by definition borderline delusional and optimistic.
Fair enough.
I think we need to bring back Jodine.
Okay. Sorry, I got all carried away.
I can keep going, but at some point, like, they're not going to let us talk for another 2 hours. So,
but you can if you want to. It was so good. You guys were so, I mean, I was taking notes. I have my pad here next to me. It was such a rich conversation. I can't thank you both enough. There's actually no other questions to ask. I was going to ask you a couple more questions, but you all hit it on the head through your answers. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Alon. Thank you so much for joining us and inspiring us with your ongoing experimentation in Mael. Now you see why people always want you to come back, right? You see it now. So thank you for stepping in for Reed tonight with such grace and incredible insight. I can't wait to see what the both of you do with the power of AI behind your businesses. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Well, This has been an amazing show, but it's not over just yet. Give me a couple more minutes of your time, because now I have to announce the winner of our game show, Chat GPE versus Read. We received so many great responses that we decided to pick two winners. A huge congratulations goes to Steve Goldman. And our second winner is Carla Arena. Congratulations to the both of you. We hope you enjoy your prize. We don't want anyone else to feel left out. So, as promised at the top of the show, you will be receiving a special gift in your inbox courtesy of Capital One Business. We've got a lot of viewers saying to us that there's so much wisdom shared in these strategy sessions, from read responses to the fireside chat. It's always hard to remember all of the gems that have been shared and passing it on to their teams. So, we are crafting a beautiful strategy session takeaway for you that will feature some key learnings from today's show, and you will receive the link in an email. Now, we'd like for you to please take part in our poll. For us to continue learning and innovating from each strategy session, please rate how valuable you found today's session. You can find the poll below the video player right now. If you're watching on mobile, collapse the chat and you'll be able to complete the poll. But don't hop off just yet. Let's bring this alligator back one more time for some live music while you continue to finish up the poll. Thank you, Gator Hayes. We definitely appreciate all the funky music you've provided us for tonight. We want to thank you. We want to spend special thanks to Sonia DeGraw from Capital One Business for joining us this evening. Thank you to the entire team at Capital One Business for being such extraordinary premier brand partners and such generous patrons for entrepreneurs. We love co-elevating with you. And speaking of co-elevation, I'm excited to share something new. The Capital One Business Hub. It's a source for educational on-the-go content aimed to spark new and innovative thinking in teams and companies of all sizes. Check out our new strategy sessions resource page, say that real fast, to learn more. It's over at the resources tab on that side of your screen. So please make sure you visit the resources tab on the green navigation bar on the left-hand side of the page. On mobile, it should be in the menu bar in the upper right hand corner. I'm probably showing you the wrong direction, but you can find it there. A huge thank you again to Alon Lee for joining us. If anyone watching hasn't played Exploding Kittens or any of the games Alon has created, you must. They are so much fun. In fact, the Exploding Kittens TV show, you're hearing it first, is coming soon to Netflix. So please keep an eye out for that. A big thank you to Reid Hoffman for answering our entrepreneurs' questions. And of course, thank you to the always amazing Maëlle Gave. We learned so much from you and can't wait to see you again soon. You're such a valued friend to Masters of Scale. Thank you so much for our participants. An epic gift box from Capital One Business and Masters of Scale will be heading your way. Thank you to the entire Masters of Scale team for putting this event together, with our fearless leader, Chineme Ezekwana, and our partners over at Brand Live. To all of you at home, thank you for joining us tonight. We loved having you here and hope you'll continue being part of the Masters of Scale community. We're also at Masters of Scale on all social media platforms. Yes, that includes TikTok. And please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. To receive Masters of Scale right in your inbox every week in a digestible newsletter full of insight, tips, and news, go to mastersofscale.com/subscribe to sign up. We are honored to join you on your entrepreneurial journey. I'm Jodine Dorsey, and thank you so much for watching.